hot mess that they air in the mornings called The View had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk.
The courtroom felt like a ticking time bomb, about to explode under the crushing weight of shocking new disclosures. What should have been a standard day in Sean Diddy Combs' trial quickly spiraled into a jaw-dropping event nobody saw coming. Ice Cube, the legendary rapper-turned-cultural powerhouse, showed up unexpectedly, not just with a stack of files, but with decades' worth of buried truths that could shake the very core of the entertainment world. His testimony was far more than just words. It was a searing indictment of a dark system built on manipulation, control, and abuse, revealing a secret network involving some of the industry's most untouchable icons. The entire mood in the courtroom shifted the moment Ice Cube walked in. He wasn't a man intimidated by the heavy hand of the industry. Every step he took was purposeful, commanding the full attention of everyone present. This trial had evolved. It was no longer just about Diddy. It was about the dark, hidden machinery behind Hollywood's glamorous facade. His voice carried the weight of decades of untold stories, artists whose careers were quietly crushed, and names whispered behind closed doors but never spoken aloud. Jamie Foxx, Oprah Winfrey, Quincy Jones. These weren't just stars. They were pillars of an empire long seen as untouchable. Now allegedly caught in a web of sinister practices, Cube was determined to expose. His testimony started by unveiling what he called the Club, a secret circle of gatekeepers and enforcers who decide who rises and who falls in the entertainment world. Cube insisted this wasn't just industry favoritism or politics. This was a carefully designed system of absolute control. He described how artists were lured in with promises of fame and fortune, only to be trapped in a maze of blackmail and coercion. Secret recordings from exclusive parties and private gatherings were wielded like weapons to silence dissenters. These weren't just rumors. These were chilling tactics. And Cube didn't just name Diddy as a player in the system. He claimed Diddy was one of the masterminds behind it. There was even some social engineering at play to make sure these prisons of control remained full. The courtroom was completely captivated as Cube painted a vivid picture of how this network operated. Lavish events held in sprawling mansions, heavily guarded behind gates and layers of security. Phones confiscated at the door. What happened inside was never supposed to leave. He described dimly lit rooms, whispered conversations, and the eerie feeling of constant surveillance. These gatherings weren't celebrations, they were tests, designed to find out who could be trusted, who could be manipulated, and who had to be silenced. But the most damning parts came when Cube connected the dots. He claimed Diddy's empire wasn't just built on music, it was built on systematic exploitation. He alleged Diddy kept a massive archive, recordings, photos, videos, all tools for blackmail. Cube said these weren't just used to ruin careers, they were used to control them. Artists who dared to step out of line suddenly became targets of smear campaigns, reputations shredded overnight by leaked scandals or baseless rumors. Cube insisted this wasn't accidental. It was a coordinated campaign to keep the power exactly where it was. They called it Wild King Nights. Nights where Diddy and guests gathered in hotel rooms or his home, in intimate settings. Cube said he was tasked with prepping these rooms, with items like baby oil and Astroglide ready for what was to come. As Cube's testimony unfolded, the allegations grew even darker. He spoke of Jamie Foxx, once thought untouchable, who was targeted by this hidden system. Fox reportedly confided in Cube about strange pressures, odd invitations, and a feeling that he was being groomed for something sinister. Oprah Winfrey and Quincy Jones were also implicated, accused of helping to sustain the system. Cube recounted how Fox was taken to Jones's home under the guise of mentorship, only to be subjected to an experience that left him rattled and unsure of his path. Silence fell over the courtroom as Cube shared these stories, the gravity of his words weighing on every listener. He detailed how Fox's career slowly unraveled after he distanced himself from these circles. Roles disappeared, projects stalled, and the media began painting him as unstable. Cube suggested this was no coincidence but punishment for refusing to comply. He even hinted that Fox's recent health scare, reported as a medical emergency, could have been a sinister warning to anyone considering breaking free from the system. He was a businessman who rose to the top because he was powerful, smart, and educated. Nobody expected there was another side to him. But as I got exposed to his lifestyle, it became clear this wasn't just occasional. It was an addiction, every day, every hour. Ice Cube didn't stop there. He connected these allegations to a much broader pattern in the industry, explaining how artists who dared to speak out or refused to fall in line often faced the same fate. Entire careers were destroyed using ruthless tactics. Artists were labeled difficult or unstable and quietly blacklisted without explanation. Cube pointed to musicians and actors who seemed to vanish overnight, their names dragged through the mud by the very industry that once praised them. He painted a haunting picture of an entertainment world where power wasn't earned by talent or merit, but held tight through fear and obedience. The courtroom sat spellbound, the weight of Cube's revelations heavy in the air. This trial wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It was a reckoning, a deep dive into a shadowy system that thrived by exploiting the very people it claimed to celebrate. Cube's testimony wasn't just a statement. It was a call to action, a demand for accountability in an industry long immune to scrutiny. As Cube left the courtroom, his words stayed with everyone, a stark reminder that once the truth is out, it can never be silenced. This wasn't just a trial. It was Hollywood's moment of reckoning. Those at the top manipulate the chaos of those below, those fighting and struggling to survive. Ice Cube's testimony left the room in stunned silence, but the impact was only beginning. What he revealed wasn't isolated abuses. It was a vast, interconnected system where power moved like an underground current. As the trial progressed, more pieces of this dark puzzle fell into place, exposing a network that went far beyond Sean Diddy. The world began asking, how deep does this rabbit hole go? How many lives have been caught in its grip? What Cube exposed about Jamie Foxx was only the beginning. His accusations against the so-called gatekeepers cast a dark shadow over the industry's biggest names. Quincy Jones, Oprah Winfrey, Diddy. These weren't just celebrities. They were power brokers who shaped whole generations of culture. But Cube's testimony forced everyone to ask a chilling question. How much of that power was wielded in the shadows? And at what cost? The courtroom buzzed with whispered speculation, and for good reason. If even a fraction of Cube's claims were true, the industry wasn't just complicit. It was complicit by design. And Cube made it clear. He was not part of that club. As the trial dug deeper, more unsettling truths emerged. Prosecutors introduced evidence suggesting decades of meticulously hidden behavior. Rumors about secret recordings and blackmail material were no longer gossip. They were backed by testimony from insiders, former employees, and artists who had stepped away from the spotlight. One former Diddy associate, speaking anonymously, described private gatherings rigged with hidden cameras in strategic spots, capturing moments to be weaponized later. These recordings weren't trophies. They were tools of control. For years, whispers about these events circulated among insiders. Cube's descriptions of networking nights matched other accounts. These weren't Hollywood parties. They were calculated power plays designed to test limits and gain leverage. It wasn't just musicians or actors targeted. Producers, executives, journalists, anyone with influence was invited. Those who refused the game found themselves shut out, locked outside the circle. These weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a system meant to control the narrative and protect those at the top. Cube called it the club of gatekeepers everyone had to deal with. The testimony also revealed psychological manipulation at the system's core. Cube hinted at isolating individuals, cutting them off from support, feeding them a twisted reality. The promise of fame and fortune quickly turned into a gilded cage. His words echoed the stories of others who had spoken out recently, describing a culture where fear and silence were the currency. One former artist said their career was destroyed after refusing to attend one of Diddy's infamous parties. Another was blacklisted for trying to tell their story publicly. Then came the question of Jamie Foxx's health scare. Cube suggested the official story wasn't the whole truth. Foxx's sudden hospitalization in 2023, shrouded in mystery, now seemed far more suspicious. Was it just coincidence or a deliberate warning? Cube's implication was clear. This wasn't about one person's downfall, but a message to anyone thinking of stepping out of line. It's chilling, but not new. Hollywood's always been a place where careers are made or broken in a moment. Now it seems that power reaches deep into stars' personal lives, and fear has kept many from speaking out. They've been terrified of what he could do to them in the industry, the damage he could inflict. Many stars have faced mysterious health issues or career setbacks that raised serious questions. Jamie Foxx wasn't alone. In recent years, several high-profile figures found themselves suddenly sidelined after trying to pull away from the industry's hidden expectations. One notable case involved a former R&B sensation who openly rejected a collaboration offer from Diddy's camp. Soon after, the singer was hospitalized under circumstances still unclear. At the time, they were reportedly working on a tell-all memoir exposing the dark side of their rise to fame. But that project was abruptly shelved when their health took a sudden turn. Was this another calculated move to silence dissent, or just a chilling coincidence? These incidents, combined with Ice Cube's testimony, have forced many to reconsider old rumors once dismissed as conspiracy theories. For example, whispers about a secret 1991 meeting involving top music executives resurfaced. That meeting allegedly outlined a plan to use certain music genres to influence public behavior, aligning eerily with Cube's claims about ties between record labels and private prisons. While no concrete evidence of the meeting has emerged, Cube's references to social engineering and the carefully curated narratives pushed by labels lend credibility to what was once considered unthinkable. If those profiting from music also benefit from incarceration, as Cube suggests, then Hollywood's motives become far darker. Literally, some of the same people who own record labels also own private prisons. Then there's the question of how this system sustains itself. Cube's testimony hinted at a culture of mutual leverage, where everyone at the top holds damaging information over someone else. This cycle is incredibly hard to break. Executives protect compliant artists while those who rebel face character assassination, financial ruin, or worse. It's a self-perpetuating system layered with plausible deniability, ensuring no single person takes full responsibility. This isn't just about the crimes of one man. It's an industry designed to shield those crimes from ever coming to light. The more the trial unfolds, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just Diddy's story. It's a Hollywood story, and it's far from over. The courtroom was captivated as more connections emerged. Ice Cube's testimony was a bombshell, a thread that, when pulled, began unraveling decades of secrecy. Prosecutors revealed communications between Diddy's team and several high-profile figures, suggesting a coordinated effort to suppress dissent. Was this the club Cube described? A shadow organization pulling strings behind the scenes, rewarding compliance and punishing. Defiance? The evidence was mostly circumstantial, but the patterns were undeniable. Cube recounted a disturbing incident where he was cornered, and a man, with his arm raised, asked, "How you doing?" The moment was uncomfortable. Then the man rubbed, his hand down Cube's chest, saying, "If you need anything at all, you let me know." It wasn't just Jamie Foxx caught in this web. Cube's testimony revealed a broader campaign of intimidation and control. Artists were pigeonholed, their creativity stifled, and their public images carefully shaped by industry power brokers. Those who resisted were often destroyed, reputations smeared, personal lives scrutinized, careers derailed quietly. One particularly chilling account came from a former protege of Diddy's, who claimed they were pressured to sign contracts, under duress, threatened with career-ending consequences if they refused. The trial also exposed questions about Diddy's vast business empire, from Bad Boy Records to Revolt TV, suggesting these platforms were not just creative outlets, but tools to enforce loyalty. Employees and collaborators who stepped out of line reportedly faced blacklisting, with opportunities drying up overnight. The message was crystal clear: loyalty is mandatory, and defiance has a heavy price. At times, the emotional toll was palpable. One witness expressed how deeply this affected them, saying, "People don't realize how much it hurts when something you love is taken away, discarded like it doesn't matter. And then life moves on while you're stuck for years, stuck even 21 years later." As the trial entered its second week, the public grappled with the gravity of what was uncovered. This wasn't just about Sean Diddy Combs. It was an entire industry that allowed such behavior to thrive in the shadows. How many powerful figures were complicit? How many careers were destroyed to keep secrets safe? How could an industry that claims to celebrate creativity operate so sinisterly? These questions demand answers, but for now, they remain shrouded in uncertainty. The revelations didn't stop with Ice Cube's testimony. Prosecutors hinted at more witnesses ready to corroborate his claims. Rumors swirled. Would Jamie Foxx himself take the stand? Would other artists who distanced themselves from Diddy come forward? Each new piece painted a darker portrait of an industry in crisis, one prioritizing profit and power over ethics and accountability. Ice Cube himself admitted he doesn't know who the ultimate puppeteers are. He understands the system exists and has first-hand experience with it, but the true masterminds remain hidden. As we reflect on what's been revealed, one thing is clear: this trial goes beyond one man's actions. It's a reckoning for an entire industry. The stories of manipulation, coercion, and exploitation exposed here are not just scandals. They are symptoms of a deep rot that has festered too long. While Sean Diddy Combs' trial might be the spark, the ripple effects are spreading far beyond the courtroom. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will more victims come forward? Will Hollywood finally confront its darkest secrets? Or will the system protect itself and bury the truth once again? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the world is watching, and this story is far from over. What do you think? Is this the start of real change, or just another chapter in Hollywood's endless saga of scandal and cover-up? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're just getting started.